Hi, everybody. Welcome to tonight's program with Let's Get Real with Coach Menachem Bernfeld. Tonight is Shir program 136. And tonight we have a topic that we've never covered, and it's a very important topic. And we brought out the best of the best over here with us tonight to really try to get a handle on it and try to get some guidance. So again, I always every week start off every week thanking everybody who comes on every week for promoting it on their statuses and emailing it to friends and family and letting people know about it. Like I say, specifically, it's even this week. You know, you never know when you post it who you're reaching out to and who knows about it, who could use the help. So please, whether it's for you or not for you, always post it, let people know about it, and try to join every week. It's a sichas chaverim. It's a place we could talk things out and try to get some clarity. And if anybody wants to get the flyers every Sunday, you can WhatsApp me at 848-525-0066. Again, that's 848-525-0066. And you could send me a message, and every Sunday morning I'll send you the flyers with who's coming on that week, or you can go to menachembernfeld.com to his website, sign up to get the weekly emails. He sends out the emails on Sunday of who's coming on. He sends out the replays and any other important messages. Please join us. Anybody who's watching the replay of this video on YouTube, you can click on the subscribe button. So every time we have a share Sunday night, Monday morning, 2:45 a.m., Menachem posts it. You get a ding. You can know about it. You can click on the like button. So me and Menachem could make millions of dollars from all the YouTube clicks that we get, and we could retire and be richer than Rob. That's the goal. And thank you to all our advertising sponsors, the Lakewood Scoop here in Lakewood, for promoting us here in Lakewood. Elliot Ariel from 5 Town Central. A special thank you to Chayla Kaufman from JCN, from the Jewish Contact Network, for always promoting us across all the Jewish digital platforms. The Coach Menachem Show is sponsored by OKClarity.com. OKClarity.com is the place for any Jew to find top-notch therapists, coach, nutritionists. OK Clarity professionals have vetted and extensive experience working with the Jewish community. You can even find Coach Menachem Bernfeld there. The world-famous Coach Menachem is there. So if you're looking for therapists, you can go there. You can also WhatsApp them at 917-426-1495. You can follow their statuses, and Menachem will send out the links after the program. Again, for anybody who's here the first time, every Sunday night at 9:30, we'll do this program 136. I think next week, in 2 weeks, it will be the 3-year anniversary from when we started this. Started right when COVID started the first week, so it's literally going to be 3 years coming up. So please join us every Sunday night. We have unbelievable therapists, Rabbanim, the best of the best we bring out, especially Rob. We brought out our cannon guns tonight, so we'll get there in a minute. Next week, we're going to have a special guest, March 19th. It's going to be an amazing show with Rabbi Avi Wiesenfeld. Comes originally from England. He has a big yeshiva in Eretz Yisrael. He's the Rosh Yeshiva of Beis David. He inspires a lot of Bachrim and boys from around the world. He's an amazing person. I got to spend some time with him. And the topic will be Ignite the Spark of Judaism, not living robotic and starting to think for ourselves. How to get us and our children excited and happy with the life we have. That's the topic. He's a very inspirational speaker, an amazing person. So please all join us next week. It should be amazing and very uplifting. Tonight, we are honored to have with us Robert J. Bernstein as a guest speaker together, who's a world-renowned speaker on autism for over 30 years. He's written books on the topics. He has unique perspectives. And he's joining together with Nochum Monosov, his pupil, his Talmud. And together, we're going to hopefully find some valuable insights on this whole autism thing. And hopefully, it'll help a lot of people. We're going to get into that in a minute. Tonight's program is Shir 136. And the Gematria, Rob, the Gematria, which means the numeric value of 136. Menachem is going to give it over. What does it mean?
Gematria of 136. This is special from Aaron Noach. Yishav Rafur Shaleima. Mea Moyach v'Halev. From the Moyach, from the mind, to the Lev. Sometimes there's a disconnect to understand what's going on. Not only a child, sometimes a spouse. And tonight, hopefully, we'll be able to figure out how to communicate so that the Moyach and the Lev can work together.
Beautiful. Okay, Coach Menachem, open it up. What are we talking about tonight? What we're trying to cover? What are we all doing here tonight?
Thank you very much. Okay, welcome everyone to another Let's Get Real with Coach Menachem, Baruch Hashem, with a lot of Siyata D'Shmaya. We're up to 136. And I hope everyone had a beautiful and a Freilich Purim, wherever they were and whatever was happening. And now we are getting ready for Pesach. Everybody with their things, whatever it is. And tonight we're going to be discussing, we have with us a guest, Robert Bernstein with Nochum Monosov, talking about autism. And then we have spectrum that makes it much more to talk about. But the truth is, communication can be to have effective communication is a skill, and not only for somebody who has autism. Regular people, sometimes people just don't get each other. They don't understand what A is saying to B. B doesn't understand A. Forget about autism. Just to be able to communicate, and especially if it comes to autism, to be able to understand what they're saying, what to say, how to answer back. To have effective communication is a real challenge. Now, if you're talking about in a case where it's clear that the person has autism, obviously it's not easy, it's hard, it's a challenge. Yes, you have to learn the skills, but at least it's clear, you know who you're dealing with, so you go get the help that you need. But then there are those who you manage to talk to them, let's say your child, as you manage with all the other kids. It's child number 5, number 6, and you're being mechanech, you're educating the child the same way. But for some reason, you feel like there's a disconnect. You're not sure what it is. Something is not clicking, something is not quite right. And over there, that can be a challenge. Now, for many parents or the teacher in the classroom, they might think, you know what, with this child, we got to be a little bit more stricter or firm. I'll use a firm voice. Maybe I'll tell them, look in my eyes. Do you hear what I'm saying? We don't realize, we think we're helping, but if you don't know what we're doing, it can just backfire. It just doesn't work. And then you're at a loss. You're not sure what to do. So here we are tonight to discuss that. To discuss, first of all, what are some skills, what are things that we can use, whether the child is young or you're dealing with a spouse that's older. And before we go to start the program, I really believe, and we'll see what Robert and Nochum says about this, that what we're going to be discussing tonight is not only for autistic people. This is just to understand and to be able to communicate with a child. You're talking about a child who's just starting communication. Not always does a child understand what they want, what they're feeling. They can't express it. So many of these skills, I'm sure you'll be able to use just by regular children to be able to bring them, to help them understand themselves. So thank you, Rob, to be with us tonight, and Nochum, and together in Menachem with the Rav and the Talmud, we'll be able to knock out so many ideas, and everybody should be able to take things that they can use in their life in Menachem.
Thank you, Coach Menachem, a beautiful opening. Okay, so again, the topic tonight is understanding the misunderstood. Nochum, you love that. Helping your loved one on the autism spectrum. Okay, we're going to start first with Nochum with an opening. I'm going to read your bio. Nochum Monosov, MS, ED, BCBA, and a lot of other letters. Received his master's degree in applied behavior analysis from the University of Cincinnati in 2019 and his BCBA certification in 2020. He also received a New Jersey State Standard Teaching License in 2015. Since 2010, Nochum Monosov has provided education and behavioral therapies for children and adolescents in Lakewood, New Jersey. Nochum will be writing a new weekly column in the Lakewood Voice, and he'll tell us more about it. But Rav Nochum, the floor is yours. Please open it up.
Okay, first of all, thank you very much, Coach Menachem or Basher. It's a real honor that you invited me to this program, and you're having Rob. Thank you to all the listeners, so many people tuning in. And also, it's an honor for me to be sharing the forum together with Rob, because Rob was, in this field from even before I was born. So, if I could be on the same floor as Rob, that's an honor for me. So, talking about the title, Reb Asher, that you said, Understanding the Misunderstood. So I think it's such a beautiful title because it really makes the point of the key to what we really need for these children or adults, whoever we're dealing with, those on the autism spectrum or have autism. A lot of the issue is that they're not being properly understood. And this is actually what causes a lot of the issues that come up. Because if you just think about it, someone that's born or they have certain challenges developing with communicating with other people, socializing with other people, they just don't get how how the regular social world works, and other people don't necessarily get them. And then there's that disconnect. And then just for them, as life continues, it's just, there's trauma. People aren't understanding them. They're not getting their needs met. They can't function. They can't do what they want. And coming along together with the autism is a lot of this trauma, and they feel like people don't understand them. Nobody understands them. So a lot of what I'm dealing with, what I work with in Rob, besides for trying to help them, improve with their actual, communication, their actual, skills that they might need help with, just overcoming that they should feel understood, they should feel someone actually understands them. That's really the key. And if, to me, one of the driving things, what I think like the most important thing why we want to have this presentation is just to bring more awareness to this idea. Somebody's going to come away from tonight's talk and realize this, that we need to have more understanding for these children. We need to understand what they're going through, how to connect with them, instead of just like Coach Menachem said, instead of just like trying to get them to behave, get them to do what we think they should be doing, if we'll actually try to understand them, just that greater awareness is tremendous. And I think everything is worth it if we could bring more awareness to that point. So what got me into this, what got me connected with Rob was, I started working with the autism population. My first experience was I joined, I was asked to join a group of boys, high school boys. They were autistic. And I was asked to, to join them for a day, be like their sub, work with them. And I was talking to these boys, and one of these boys started telling me, he just started talking to me. He was a quieter, sweet boy. He tells me like, there's so much pressure, everything's pressure. I have to do this, I have to do that. The teacher wants me to do stuff. The therapist want me to do stuff. And he's like, and he's already in high school. He's saying already, my elementary school years, it's all pressure. And, I'm not judging whoever's working with him, but at least in this child's mind, he's under tremendous pressure. He's not feeling like, he could enjoy life. He could connect, he could grow, he could succeed. To him, everything's just about pressure, pressure, pressure. And that struck me as like, are we really, maybe we have some beautiful teaching methods to help these kids, but are we actually tapping in and understanding them and giving them what they need? So, and, this is my first experience, and, more experiences meeting with these kind of children, I realized that maybe we're missing something working with these kids. And, a few years ago, my mother, she recommended I should get this book. The book is called Uniquely Normal, and it was written by Robert J. Bernstein. And my mother's friends with his wife, so she, she said, my friend, her husband, he's written a whole book about autism, and she told me to get the book. So I got the book, I opened it up, and it's exactly the point that, what I was concerned about. He addresses that so amazingly, so beautifully, that, I felt that I need to reach out to him. I need to get more training in his approach. He also has a beautiful approach how to really work with these kids, how to really help them grow and develop. So I reached out to Rob Bernstein, and, he was, he's very gracious to train me and to give me this ongoing, really ongoing training, a lot of focus. We met every week this was going for at least 2 years. And, we discussed, boys that I'm working with, we collaborated, he gave me the guidance. And I feel like I got a tremendous amount from it. And just to give a little idea, some kind of little presentation of, how helpful was this in our working with these kids, I would ask, I'm going to describe, we worked on a little research study. This was Rob Bernstein's idea. I followed up with it. We wanted to sort of get an idea, working with these kids, like how successful are we with these kids? Are we just helping them with one specific behavior, one specific setting? Like, is the kid talking less, let's say during the morning class, but we don't know anything about the afternoon class. Maybe he's a total disaster in the afternoon class. We wanted to try to get information to get an idea of overall, is the child actually growing? Is he actually improving? And it's hard to get accurate data, but the way we try to get some kind of sense of if we're making progress is we developed this questionnaire to ask the parents before I started working with the child. So my work with the child, just to give a little background, I'm the BCBA, which means that I would supervise other therapists working with the child. Sometimes I would spend time myself with the child. Sometimes it would be the be another therapist working with the child. And so we did this questionnaire. We asked the parents to rate their child different areas of difficulty. We had 13 questions, and the parents would give a rating. Was the child having difficulty, let's say, at home, listening to the parents, getting along with siblings? Was he having difficulty at school, academic, making friends? Is he having trouble with back and forth conversation, expressing his needs? And the parents would give a rating. Either they would say there was no difficulty at all, a little difficulty, somewhat, or a lot. So we did this. We were able to complete this study with 15 of the boys. And this was going for these boys are set between 7 and 14 years old. We did this questionnaire, either it was 6 months or 12 months after the initial questionnaire. And I would ask you, Rabasha, if you could just put up on the screen the chart just to give a highlight of the results. Okay, so this is just, from the 13 areas that we measured, the blue is the areas that the parents reported progress. The red is the areas that they reported that things got worse. Now, since it's very subjective, these questions, sometimes the parent could initially say, no, he has no issue with this at all. And then the next time I ask the questionnaire, they say, oh yeah, actually he has a hard time with expressing himself, and then they'll give him a lower score. But overall, just getting an idea of looking at the data, this would seem pretty significant that we are actually, for the 15 boys, we were actually showing that there was overall improvement, in the general, taking the child as a whole, that there was an overall progress from where he was initially to after working and implementing Rob Bernstein's approach. And besides for that, there was a lot of anecdotal reports of progress. There were the Rebbeim saying that they were seeing progress. There were teachers saying, there was the parents were saying in different ways, they saw he's getting better at this, getting better at that. Some boys, the friends would say, oh yeah, he's not like what he used to be. So this is just, hopefully some little snapshot of using Rob Bernstein's approach for the boys that I worked with in Lakewood, and the kind of successes that, using this kind of approach could help.
Okay, shkoyach luck with that opening. We're gonna go to Rob now. Rob, I'm gonna read your bio. Is that okay?
Go for it.
Okay, here we go. Robert Bernstein has developed his cognitive-based approach for more than 30 years, starting with his HASC summer program in Parksville, New York. He's seen thousands of clients. He speaks internationally, runs webinars, and has a podcast, Uniquely Normal, a Robert Bernstein podcast. Rob serves on the board of Westchester ARC. Rob Bernstein has a child and a brother on the autism spectrum, who are both highlighted along 27 other case stories in his award-winning book, Uniquely Normal, Tapping the Reservoir of Normalcy to Treat Autism. His latest book, Uniquely Normal Manual Using the Bernstein Cognitive Method for Autism. Robert, it's an honor and a pleasure to have you here. Thank you for giving us your time and your wisdom. Please take over.
Thank you so much. I am honored, Reb Usher and Coach Menachem, very honored for the invitation of being here. I love the turnout, and I'll tell you, when I'm speaking to a group of 50 people, I will go over to every person before giving my talk, and ask them, why are they here? Because many people who come to my talks only care about their own kid or their loved one or their student. I want to know why they came so I could gear my talk to those people. So you have 3 or 4 grandparents say, oh, my grandson, he doesn't talk. All right, I'm going to talk about early language or jobs or friendships, or right. So hearing from you guys is really the most important thing. But you mentioned that I worked at HASC, and it reminded me, it just happened a few days ago. For decades, and you don't have to believe any of this, but for decades, people are telling me, only you could do what you're doing. It's intuitive. And I just really bothered me, because at HASC, I teach people, and I teach people my method, and it's like, it's intuitive. And then a person who's smarter than me, I'm just being honest, who's smarter than me told me, you know what they don't understand? The people who think you're intuitive, you're doing something that, and I didn't even kind of realize it, that they aren't getting. And that is when I see people on the spectrum, I'm in awe. I'm in awe. It's amazing understanding another mind. And it reminds me of Haas. You mentioned Haas. This reminds me of the story. I was a teacher at Haas. I don't know if you know Haas, Hebrew Academy for Special Children. It's in Liberty. Some of you know it, right? So this kid climbs up as the steps to a slide, right? He climbs up and he's kind of looking around like he's lost. And I drove home, the counselor's there 24 hours a day. I drive home that day and I'm going, why doesn't he slide down? Why doesn't he go? Who walks up the slide and doesn't go down? I don't get it. And it just really bothered me. And I kept thinking and thinking and thinking. And I said, maybe, and this is part of my approach. I come up with a theory. Maybe if there were, instead of 20, 15 steps, if there were 100 steps, he would keep going, keep going, keep going. I thought, knowing this kid, he would just, I know you know the word perseveration or obsession, but my idea was that he was just obsessive about going up, he didn't have the idea of going down, just up, going, walking. So as I'm writing this book, this is one of the stories of my book, Uniquely Normal. I'm writing this book like a few years ago, and I call Yaakov Wedline, this kid's name is Yitzi. Yitzi's, counselor. We're going back literally 40 years, 35 years from the time. And I call him, he's in Israel, Yaakov. And he says, I asked him, am I right in recalling that he's had this perseveral problem? And we talked about eating food. He says, you're not going to believe this. I said, did he eat all the peas first and then the potatoes? He said, as if it were yesterday. Not only did he eat all the peas on his dish, but he ate all the peas on everyone else's dish. So this idea of perseveration, wow, now I got him. Now we could do something about it. So just this idea of, instead of saying you're wrong, instead of judging these kids, instead of saying, I'm going to find a way for you to come down, I'm going to give you a reward for you to come down the slide, because it's our idea, it's our agenda. Just start with the idea of like, this is amazing. Like, what's going on here? And if you do, and I realize I kind of do that with every kid I see. I have that totally open mind, if you want to call it an open line, to like, wow, let's see how this mind works. So that's one thing I want to bring up. And the other, maybe one or two things, is part of my philosophy, my approach, is that we want to follow the child, follow his lead. That's the first line in the manual book here. Follow the kid's lead, and then maybe change something. Let me give you an example. The kid wants you to join them. So you're bonding with you're joining your child, your loved one, your student. And let's just say the kid wants you to run with him. So you're running around the track, you're running with him. Fine, you're right, so you have this, it's a safe environment because you're accepting, total acceptance. And then what comes along with that is that, like I said before in the other example, there's no agenda. You don't have a agenda in mind, you're going along with the kid. But then you do something where you want to elicit something from the child. So let's just say you're tired. You make believe you're just really exhausted. Now, the kid just could keep on running. All right, you're not, judging whatever the kid does. The kid might say, oh, come on, Dad, let's run. Okay, now he's eliciting language. That might be one of the goals. Now he's interacting. Now he's recognizing you and your needs, right? I mean, these ideas are going to be familiar with people who work with kids on the spectrum. Maybe the kid will say, Dad, we should go back. You're so tired. You're trying to elicit relationship, language, whatever you know, and you already know this. Whatever you think and you know what the kid needs, you could do this with look at what we're doing. You're following his lead. and you're kind of adding something in that flow. So now the kid's responding to something real at the time, and you're allowing the child the opportunity to say something, do something. Think of eliciting language like that, as opposed to holding up a one of these flashcards and says, say house, say dog. You see what I'm talking about? There's no meaning here. But what I'm saying, it's real life. The situation will dictate the progress. And look, that's how we learned. That's how we learned to talk. We didn't learn to talk by saying, say, mommy. No, there were real situations. And that's what we want to present to these kids, real situations, but it has to be deliberate. It has to be methodical. And that's where my approach comes in. I'll say one more thing about my approach, that it's a cognitive approach. What does that mean? Let's say I ask, and people could answer this question or not, I don't care, but think of it, I'm going to ask you a question. What's the idea behind counting? Now, some of you will probably start thinking. You shouldn't have to think. Yeah, you know why you're thinking? What's the idea behind counting? What do you're trying to think of the answer? Because you weren't taught from the idea. You weren't taught the idea. You figured it out on your own. I don't need to know the idea behind counting. That's stupid. I know the idea. Some of our kids don't know the idea behind counting. They're very literal. A 6-year-old, 10-year-old, the parents say he can count to 120. But does he have the idea of counting? Otherwise, it's just rote, right? If it's just rote, it's literally meaningless. So what is the idea behind counting? I think it's an interesting question, but it signifies my cognitive approach, because I want to speak from ideas rather than just rote kind of language, rote kind of thinking. My idea of counting is that when you're counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 is one more than 3. Okay? These kids might have to learn that. So if you're not teaching cognitively or by the ideas, and just teaching behaviorally from the behavior, then the kid you'll get a check, but the kid could count to 10. I'm saying, wait a second. If he doesn't know 5 is one more than 4, and 3 is one less than 4, he doesn't understand. He does not understand the idea of counting. Now, I'm going to tell you something that I don't think you mind me sharing some of my secrets with you, because it's all original stuff. If you've done this before, I'm going to be really angry at you, because then you stole it from me. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, look. How many pennies? The kid counts 4 pennies. You go like this. I'm adding this penny, right? Now handing how many pennies, right? What is the kid going to do? If the kid might say 5 because he has 4 5s, right? But what some kids do, I'll do the subtraction. I think you start with that and then you go like this. 4 pennies, right? The kid and you take 1 away. I like this example better. You take 1 away, how many pennies? You have to try this. Because most of the kids that I do it with, that I'm questioning if they have this idea of counting, even though they can count, you know what they say? What do they say? Anyone have an idea what they say? 4 pennies, 1, 2, 3, 4. How many pennies? 4. I'm taking, there's 1 away. They can see that. Now how many pennies? Do you know what they say? Anyone want to guess? Nobody? 226 people, no one has an idea what they're going to say? See, I think all these people without pictures are not even listening to me. I'll just keep talking then. What a lot of kids will say, and you have to do this because it's fun. I mean, I wouldn't be doing this for more than 35 years saying thousands of people weren't fun. What a kid would say, if he doesn't understand the concept, he would say, open your hand, let me count. He doesn't have the idea that 4 take away 1 is 3. I've done this hundreds of times. It's a great, it's great, it's easy, it's fun. And then when the kid says, open your hand, you know that he does not have the concept for takeaway 1 is 3. Now, let me just say this last thing about the cognitive idea. In order to understand adding or counting, you have to understand what's 1 less or takeaway. You can't understand, the concept has to be reversible. You can't understand turning on a vacuum cleaner without understanding how to turn it off, right? Hot, cold. I mean, isn't that the truth? That you have to understand the reverse. This is from Piaget. I didn't make this up. So, so when teachers teach addition, and it's still going on for decades. Oh, I teach them to add the numbers up to 20, and then we do subtraction. I'm screaming. You know why that's been working? I'm just going to be honest. Why people get away with that? Because the students fill in. We all fill in with that, whether it's counting and addition, we fill in what I'm just going to say. We kind of figure this out. These kids on the spectrum, a lot of times they don't figure it out. They have to be taught. So if you're adding 3 + 1 is 4, and if you don't take that 4, take away 1 is 3. If you don't do that at the same time, you're not teaching addition. You have to teach subtraction in order to understand addition. I'm only saying this is because it's part of this cognitive, examples of a cognitive approach, that it's the idea behind the behavior. It's the idea behind adding. You have to understand subtracting. So it'll come up. I think it'll come up in some of our questions, my idea, my philosophy, my approach. So I just wanted to give you that background.
Robert, beautiful opening. Everybody was typing 5, by the way. I got 5. People can't talk, everybody's muted, so that we can answer. But okay, we're gonna take a poll. We have tonight for the first time ever 5-question poll. So the poll should take about an hour. And then when we're done with that, we will get to questions. A lot of questions came in. Some people want to ask live. Again, live questions go first. You have the experts over here. So please take advantage of them. They want you to share. They want you to ask their questions. They want to try to help you. And your questions probably can relate to a lot of other people. So by asking, you are helping other people. Let's go with the polls and let's see what everybody has to say, okay? This is 5 big polls. Here we go. Answer to the best of your ability. Which therapy or intervention has been the most effective for your child with autism? 3 options. Applied behavior analysis, ABA therapy. Option B, speech therapy. Option C, floor time, VIR, right? That's what it's called. So from those 2, which one do you find the most effective with your child with autism? If anybody doesn't have a child with autism, you could skip the question. Number 2, which area of your child's development do you feel needs the most support currently? Communication skills, social skills, or sensory processing skills? So from those 3, which would be the most prevalent topic for support right now? 3rd question. This is a general question. What type of resources would be most helpful to you as a parent of a child with autism? 3 options. Support groups for parents. You feel there's not enough support groups. 2, access to information and educational materials. Or option 3, financial assistance for therapy and interventions. Next question, number 4. Have you seen your child's progress in the development since receiving therapy or interventions for autism? I'm sorry, how have you seen your child's progress? Like since they started going to therapy or different type of interventions, have you seen A, significant improvement in skills? B, some improvement but still struggling in certain areas? Or option C, no noticeable improvement yet? And the 5th question, which should have been maybe the first question, do you have someone in your family who is on the autism spectrum? 4 options. A child, a spouse, yes, but not in my inner family circle, like a cousin, a nephew, a neighbor, not like your immediate family. You know somebody, but it's not in your circles. Or option 4, no, I'm just here to learn. So please read the questions over. Take your time. We're going to give it a few seconds. You know what I mean? And then we will share it with everybody. And then I'll read all the results. Rob, you can comment on it. And people want to ask live. Somebody said they're autistic. How do they answer the last question? So I guess you don't answer the question. It's a good question. I don't have the answer to that. Sorry. The polls are thought of by me, so I'm not so good. I take blame. Somebody said that they're an ABA therapist and they're here to learn how to work more efficiently with the children I work with. Very interesting. Okay, we're gonna give another few seconds. Take your time. Rob, so far, how are you enjoying? You having a good time?
I'm having a great time.
Okay, that's the main thing.
Why not? Baruch Hashem. I'll
Baruch
throw
Hashem.
that. I just threw that in. That's,
What does it mean?
Well, if you don't know, we have a problem.
How many coins am I holding? Okay. Here we go. I'm going to end the results now. Okay, most people voted. Here we go. Rob, these are the answers that people said. You ready? I'm going to read it quickly because there's a lot, and then we'll review it together. Oh, sorry. Let me share it. There we go. Sorry. Okay, which therapy or intervention has been the most effective for your child with autism? 54% of people believe ABA has been the most helpful, while 28% of people feel speech therapy, and 18% say floor time. So it seems like the winner by far is ABA therapy. Which area of your child's development do you feel needs the most support currently? So we have over here 38% communication skills, 49% social skills. So the winning answer is social skills followed by communication skills. Only 13% say sensory. Number 3, what types of resources would be the most helpful to you as a parent of a child with autism? 17% say support groups, 35% said access to information and educational materials, and 48% people feel financial assistance for therapy and interventions. Definitely money is the winning answer over here. I think money is just a general winning answer. I need money for everything, but it seems like especially with this, it's very important. Number 4, how have you seen your child's progress in the development since receiving therapy or interventions for autism? Rob was very interested in this poll, and 24% say significant improvement in skills. 63%, by far, some improvement, but still struggling in certain areas. 13% see no noticeable improvements yet. Do you have someone in your family who is on the autism spectrum? 56% of people here tonight that voted said yes, their child. Only 1% said a spouse. 20% said yes, but not in the inner family circles, more like a cousin, nephew, or neighbor. 23% of people are here just to learn. So those are the polls. Robert, if you want to share anything on them or you find them interesting, any comments before we go to the questions?
Well, I just comment that to me, the most significant thing is who's out there, and it's mostly parents. And then somebody said something very significant, well, why wasn't I'm on the spectrum? So I'd be curious to know how many people there who are, diagnosed as autism themselves. But no, it looks like for the most part they're parents, and the idea that there's some improvement, I'd be curious what they're struggling with. I mean, I'm here to help people. If things are going great and you're happy, then great. But if you're struggling, or if your kid is struggling with something, then I'm here to help, whether it's language or anything else. And ABA is the prominent, it's insurable, it's prominent. I bet some people never heard of floor time or DIR. It's interesting how speech therapy is not as effective as you would want to. Isn't that the idea of speech therapy, is help your kid to speak? And it's speech therapy for the most part has not reached up to really what I think it should be in general. I can say that. Social skills, to me, that's, I think of friendship. If there's a question about friendship, we should talk about social skills and friendship. That may be the first thing. If I were to address it in detail, I might talk about friendship. So I'll leave it up to you guys to take it from here.
Okay, let's get to some questions. If somebody wants to ask live, let me see if he's ready. You want to unmute? Give it a second. Now we'll jump into the live questions. Okay, let's go to her first. Okay, sorry, you'll go first.
Oh, thank you for the honor. I was just wondering though, what about families where, this is my experience and observation, I may see families who have more than one child that might be on the spectrum, but the parents, well, especially the parents themselves might be, could that interfere or would that affect in some way the therapy or the outcome? I mean, I'm sure, it's be quite a, I mean, I would say a burden, but if the parents themselves might even have trouble understanding or getting across to the child, understanding what the child needs. They themselves may not be able to communicate well. I don't know if it's, can be almost like the blind leading the blind in a way. I don't know if you come across that experience.
So you're saying you've a couple of kids on the spectrum and also the parents on the spectrum?
Yes, or not, I mean, not everyone, but I mean, I'm just talking various situations. There might be more than one child, because I think there is a hereditary base to it. That's what I've heard. I recently heard someone speak who was autistic, and he high functioning, obviously, but saying that the, I mean, you can have the ironically hit up with a son who's severely autistic. So I'm just wondering if that could be a problem there, where the parents themselves might be a little bit on the spectrum, or there's another child with with a problem, with either on the spectrum or some other disorder.
Well, I'll say this, that if you have two kids, both of them are on the spectrum, they're going to be probably entirely different, right? If there's, one of the sayings that my friend coined, if you know one autistic kid, you know one autistic kid, so yes, it's going to be more of a burden, but they're going to be different. Someone will have much more language than the other and so forth. Siblings, I'll just talk about that for a second. Kids with other kids, siblings, it's probably the most underrated idea in the autism world. There's a person, Jeannie Safer, wrote a great book called The Normal One. In other words, the kid who's not autistic or not disabled has tremendous problems being with a brother or sister who is, disabled or on the spectrum.
Sadly, they're overlooked.
I love working with siblings. Let me tell you something that from my experience. Every single sibling, let's just say it's an autistic sibling and typical sibling for the moment. Every single sibling of an autistic kid has told me the same thing. They ask the same question. And the one question is, how can I help my brother? How can I help my sister? They want it, it's their, right? They want to know what to do. 99% of the time, they don't know what to do, and they're not told what to do and how to do it, because half the time the parents, right? People don't know what to do. That's my job, right? To know what to do with these kids, but it's so important. It's I spend so much time with the siblings. Every week I spend so much time with the siblings because they could do what you can't do, that I can't do, that the parents can't do. And if they could get the idea of having this kid that I'm thinking of elicit language and how to do that, and instead of, and I'll say this, the norm is that these typical siblings, the typical kids, go further and further, and they give up. They give up. They go further and further away from these kids. In fact, right before my first book got published, I mean, literally like a week, it's going for print already. And I met this kid going to college, right? And he had an Asperger, brother. And I told him what he could do to make an enormous difference with his brother. And he said, I wish I knew this when I was 4 years old, because the reason I'm going to college away to Albany State University is to just get away from my brother. I just can't take it anymore. The kid's so demanding. He's so needy. He's so this. And now that I know what to do, I almost don't feel like going. And then within 1 year, he comes back home. It's really funny.
Mhm.
So it's such and I'll say this a number of times, but it may be one of the most important things to do. This idea of siblings. And when I'm talking about, even if they're two autistic kids, yes, there's a dynamic there of communication, like Coach Menachem was saying, that is so important. So we really have to highlight. We can't ignore. I don't understand. I just don't understand why that shouldn't be the first question a parent. Sometimes it is when they don't get along, right? But it should be highlighted that the sibling could be enormously helpful to the autistic kid. All he has to do is know what to do. So that's really important. Just one other thought about a father or the mother on the spectrum. Usually the spouse is not on the spectrum that I've seen. So now you have a real burden. You have a spouse who's on the spectrum, and there are problems between you and the spouse. And now you have an autistic kid. So let me tell you a story. This kid, 10 years old, she would cut herself, like with a file folder. She would sometimes be self-destructive. And I arranged with the mother that this kid could call me anytime, day or night. She calls me 9 o'clock at night. And I meet her at the diner. Here I am with this 10-year-old kid, 9 o'clock at night. And here's the issue. That this kid's on the spectrum. Her brother is not on the spectrum. Do you know what a potch is? A potch, when you potch? Okay, good. I'm glad you know what a potch is, or else I'm talking to the wrong audience here. Okay, so when the boy does something wrong and the father potches him, the kid says, all right, I did something wrong. I messed up. I'm not going to do it again. When he potches the girl, you know what the girl says? How could somebody who loves me hit me? My father doesn't love me. Whoa. I bring the father into my office. You would think this is a 5-minute conversation, telling him that. Go ahead. You can do what you want. I'm not here to tell you to parent. You can do what you want. But just know that your child has already decided you don't love her. Right? And there are other reasons why her mother didn't love her, and now she's hurting herself. Right? It took 45 minutes for him to take ownership of the idea that he shouldn't hit his little girl. He says, what am I supposed to do? That's the way I was brought up. Well, okay, it works for your boy. It doesn't work for your girl because your girl's on the spectrum. So it happens a lot when you have an adult that doesn't kind of get it. They need to be on board. They need help too. Thanks for the question.
You're on mute.
You're on. Next question, Robert.
Hi, thanks for taking my question.
Yes.
I have a child who's turning 3, and he has a few different issues. I didn't yet get a diagnosis for him, but I was wondering if you would be able to tell me what the biggest red flags are for an autistic child. How would I know if he's autistic or not?
I'll give you a very simple answer. Speech. Now, all right. Let me tell you a little bit about early language development. You want to hear a little substantial answer to that?
Yes.
The question is, how does he talk? Does he have single words? What kind of language does he have? Let me ask you that.
So it happens to be, he's got evaluated for EI, and he was eligible for speech, which his speech therapist actually, she keeps on getting back to me and telling me that.
Oh, look, I'm going to interrupt you because we might have 40 questions. Just tell me about does he speak in full sentences?
Yes.
Does he when you go on a wonderful trip, does he come back and explain what he did to a spouse that wasn't there?
It's a spouse.
A spouse, like your husband,
Oh, yeah, you're saying like that.
could you speak about what happened in the past?
He could tell me like, oh, it was scary or it was fun, like a two-word answer. He won't like, rehearse, oh, I went down the slide and it was so much fun, something like that,
Okay, well, that's all good. I'm not going to say what I was going to say about early language. Because I'm thinking of early language where a kid didn't speak really in full sentence and back and forth. He could have a back and forth conversation.
Yeah, it happens to be interesting. A lot of times when I'll ask him a question, he'll repeat my question. Like if I ask him like, where are we go? We're going to the park. Where are we going? He'll go, where are we going? He does do that a lot. Like I'll ask a question and I know he'll repeat the question back to me. I don't know if that's anything, but.
Okay, now we're getting to an autistic kind of characteristic. When a kid will answer the last thing that they heard. And there's a trick that probably most of you know. If I have popcorn and a piece of paper, I say, do you want piece of paper or popcorn? He may say popcorn. But if I say, do you want popcorn or the piece of paper? He might say piece of paper because it's the last thing he heard. In other words, he's repeating something without thinking and answering.
No, but he'll tell me the popcorn.
Can I
I'm
just,
sorry, what?
I just add something? Is your concern more speech related or your concern more with his social? Because, in our questionnaire, seems a lot of people have more of the concern with the social.
So he definitely has social, like one-on-one, he's fine, but like in a classroom setting, he's not. And he's super impulsive.
I'm going to say something that, because the poll, I'm so glad you did the poll, because I think when you have 18%, a very relatively low number of people see their kid having sensory issues. I just want to mention that I got this from my co-author, who I'm writing another book with, Marcia Eckert, one of the leading psychologists in the country. She says 100% of kids on the spectrum have sensory issues. Like I can't say 100%. In other words, there's at least one sensory issue.
He's extremely sensory.
What's that?
He's extremely sensory.
Right. And my idea is, and I could be wrong, what do I know about this? But when people aren't, say, 18% sensory, I'm saying, well, maybe people are not aware of it. Maybe the kid himself or herself is not aware of that there are sensory issues there that could really affect their behavior. Some kids need to move in order to listen. Think about that. Sit down and listen. And the kid actually can listen better when they are kind of moving. It's very common among the autistic population. So then what happens? Now the teacher says you have to sit down, or I'll give you, a reward if you sit down, and sort of forcing now the kid is sitting down and not moving, but all the concentration is going to not moving, and they're definitely not listening to what the teacher's saying. So when I hear this kind of behavior issue, there are so many different answers, and Nochum will have his take on it, but I just want to bring up something that people may not be aware of. The sensory issues may play a huge part. Too much noise, too many lights. They may need to sit in a different spot. They may need to sit in the back of the room because the front of the room, they're too anxious. They may have to sit in the front of the room because the back of the room is, whatever it is, right? Especially with 3-year-old, you need to see, and you're saying, okay, I finally hit on something about your kids. So forget about we'll save the early language for another question. But you have to examine these sensory issues, and not like the kid has to adapt. We have to do some adapting ourselves in an environment that's going to be healthy. I'll just paraphrase Simon Baron-Cohen, who's one of the gurus of autism, and he's not always right, by the way. He said, think of it as a kid who's a saltwater fish. There's the classroom, and the teacher says, okay, you're not behaving, you're moving. Okay, take a break, go to the back of the room, go to another classroom, calm down, right? Go to the fresh water, where you're comfortable, and then come back. Well, coming back is still salt water. He's still going to be uncomfortable in that environment unless you change the environment. Now it's the kid's fault. He came back, he had a break, he comes back, he's still uncomfortable because he's not comfortable because of these sensory issues. We're just not aware in general. We're just not aware of this. So I just want to point that out because that's sometimes a very easy thing to deal with. Parents know it. And last question for you. I can't pronounce your name, KLK.
Yeah, that's my name.
Now, you're aware that your child has sensory issues. Are the teachers aware of these same sensory issues?
I just know he's sensory. I don't really know what that means. And I'm working with an OT to try to they're just giving me different tools and
But he's going to a preschool, he's going to some school
he's in a
setting.
daycare.
Okay, are the people in the daycare aware of these sensory issues? I think we know the answer to that.
I mean, honestly, they're the one who initiated my whole evaluation, but they don't know how to deal with it, and nor are they really gonna deal with it because he's 1 out of 20.
Okay, that's kind of my point, that not only do you need to be aware of it, we can't depend on the kid, 3-year-old kid, to say to the teacher, oh, excuse me, those fluorescent lights are really bothering me. I mean, but we all, the system.
I don't know what triggers him either. Like what you were saying, it could be noise, it could be a funny sound. I don't know what it is.
Well, that's what I'm saying. We have to understand it, and everybody has to understand it. And maybe a lot of kids have so much anxiety when they walk into a school. A lot of kids, so much anxiety, all ages, teenagers. And we have to see where is this anxiety coming from? And it might be a sensory issue that may be relatively easy to fix if we're aware of it. We could take another question.
Can I just add something to that, Rob?
Of course.
Yeah, no, Rob, I really like how you clarified that with the sensory issues. And that's really goes into the theme of understanding the misunderstood, that people don't always understand what the kids need. It's something simple like the lights bother the kid, and we don't know what it is. And then, you could try to be strict with the kid. He's not listening, he's not behaving. And it's just, and the kid's feels just totally misunderstood. So the other point is that I don't know how much you'll agree with me, Rob, but I think of autism, we don't know exactly what autism is. It could be many different things, many different sources, many different causes, but sometimes people get the diagnosis because they want to get, certain kind of services. Sometimes, falls into something that people typically look at as autism. Sometimes it's different, but there's some social difficulties, communication difficulties. Really, somebody feels like their kid is not getting it, not picking up what he should be getting. He's sort of falling through. He's not successful. He's not thriving. They'll want to look for some kind of help to get that kid to really give him what he needs. No matter what exactly you're going to call it, you want to find that help for the kid.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go to the next live question, guys. Unbelievable. Here we go. Okay, you're on.
Hi. So I have a 24-year-old son. It took us a long time for us to figure out that he had the autism. He was in 10th grade by the time. He always struggled, but he was enough that he was high functioning enough that we didn't weren't able to get him any of these type of helps, ABA or anything like that. And now he's struggling. He can't move on. He actually has also OCD, which I've recently spoke to a developmental psychologist who said it's actually a source of the autism, because the autism helps him to be so focused that he can't even, that it's stopping him from functioning. So I'm struggling to find him any type of resources to help him, because he's over 20, he's 24. So it's very hard to find options to help him. I'm in New Jersey, and we're just struggling for ideas of how to help him move on with his life. he's smart, he's capable, but he's high functioning autism, which was interesting because the way he put it was the psychologist was saying he's high functioning for autism, but he's low functioning for other people. So we keep expecting him to be, oh, he's high functioning, he should be able to keep up with what we're doing, but we still haven't quite figured out how to like help him in a way that will help him be successful.
Great question, and I'm so glad you're representing the post-college years, because those people are just ignored by the system. And once you're out of the public school system, there are very few services, and then what happens? I mean, you know this, and I know I'm not surprised that you have a kid who basically wants to leave home. He wants to be independent. I'm smart, I could be capable, I'm tired of living with you. I'm just saying that's the norm that I've seen over and over again. The parents kind of want the kid to leave, but it's not working because he doesn't have those, independent
Life
skills,
skills.
if you want to.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you a question. The most important question is, what is he like? Because for him to move forward, he has to be engaged in something. So it could be, what is he like?
I mean, he likes cars and he's very good with computers. Those are the two things that he's, are his focus. Everyone talks about like they have their focus. So he's great with like he could, pick up phones and do that. But the problem is he can't and it's interesting. You were talking about the sensory, and I never put it together that that's the sensory. He has the sensory because like he doesn't like certain things, and the sensory is stopping him. He's so concerned about like he can't sleep at night because it's too noisy for him and all that stuff. He can't function because he's so stuck by the sensory, so like because we never got him all this help, I'm like stuck now. No one's gonna give him ABA now, and no one's gonna give him sensory, and all that stuff. It's just blocking him from moving on. I mean, really, he says he can't get a job because he doesn't get a good night's sleep because everybody wakes him up, and it's all these type of things.
Okay, I want to ask you a question. I mean, it's hard. We're in front of 200 people here, and I've done this
Right.
with 200 people live. I would do the same thing, and that is, I'm locking in on the idea of obsession because I think, and this is just my personal experience, that of all these autism traits, I think this idea of inflexibility and obsession, which is part of the definition, repetitive behavior, right? We know that. I think that's even more fundamental than even, and I'm going to get in trouble for it, even from the social part. I think this is being inflexible.
Right.
I think is more fundamental. It's just my personal opinion from experience. So I just want to ask you one question about this obsessive kind of thing. Now, just play with me a little because we can't have a 2-hour conversation. He's interested in cars. I'll tell you what I did personally. Twice a week for 2 years, I would go to my local mechanic and watch him work. I find that fascinating. When he says, "Could you hold the light so I could see what I'm doing in changing this oil filter?" I loved it because then I could see what he's doing. And I learned how to do ball joints and all kinds. I just found it fascinating learning about cars. I'm a hands-on kind of person. I don't want to just read it in books. Now, here's my question. Again, play with the idea. If he was interested, he said he's interested in cars. If you arrange him going to the mechanic a half an hour a week, whatever, and just watching him, or he can't help. There's an insurance, issue. He can't really help, but just watch the mechanic, maybe hold the light for him while they're changing the brakes. Just watch these guys. Here's my question, and just answer this as best you can. Would he display his obsessive behavior?
I don't know.
Okay, I don't know is a good answer. I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know is a great. It's a great answer. Here's this kid, 24 years old. You know him his whole life. I ask you a question, you say, I don't know. I love that answer because what I'm guessing, and I guess since you don't know, I have a 50-50 chance of being right. When he's engaged with something, all of a sudden, this obsessive compulsive behavior is not there. Isn't that interesting? Or may not be there. May not be there. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
I find that fascinating. Where is the obsessive compulsive behavior when he's engaged with this mechanic holding the light when he's watching the brake job done?
Right.
Or
So you think,
taking the alternator. That's fast. So here's my, answer or response to you and a lot of other people. Engagement is just like the example of running. Engagement is the key to have these kids significantly change who they are and what. And I say who. You know why I say who they are? I'm working with this 14-year-old, and he gets what I'm trying to do in terms of changing the way his mind works. And he says, "I know what you're doing. You're changing my personality."
mm,
I go, "Well, you know what I am." The way I am, because
right.
his father was a locksmith, so he would, not break into the bank, but he would, open the bank's door and clean. That's his job, to clean up the bank. So he would go into the bank and clean, and then he would watch TV for 2 hours in the bank instead of doing his job and getting out. But I got him. I had, we figured out a way for him to just do his job. And he said, "You're changing my personality." And in a way, he's right. We want to change his nature, his obsessive nature. And this kid called it personality. And that's what Nochum and I are doing.
Yeah, can I add to that? Because I was thinking the same thing, but I couldn't have said it as well as you. I'm planning to start writing articles in The Voice of Lakewood. This is a Lakewood, for those not from Lakewood, it's a Lakewood magazine. It gets given out. So, a lot of the articles.
Can access it online also.
Oh.
Oh, okay, thank you. And yeah, and if anyone wants to send me an email, I can send them the article, when it's going to come out Pesach. So a lot of the work that I do with these boys, and I have Rob that guides me, one of the first stories I give is a boy, and, he has different difficulties. He's not getting along with the boys in his class. He does things that get them disgusted, annoyed, and he said he doesn't have any friends. And the first thing that I do with him is I find something that will really get him excited. Try to figure out what is going to get this kid excited, what's going to engage him. And and I myself like woodworking. I do woodworking myself, and I spoke to him about it, and I saw that's something he'll really love. So I said, okay, great, we're going to do a whole woodworking project together. And just doing that already, before we went on to the cognitive therapy of Rob, just doing that already, transforms the kid. The kid already, he's engaged, he has some connection, he's excited, he feels like, and that's really what Reb Usher, I really, appreciate again, when he sets up this show, Reb Usher and Coach Menachem, I think it's such a successful program because they try to find people that have a passion, people that, they've worked, many years to, on a certain thing, a certain topic, and he gives them this platform to really share it and discuss it. And that's why it's so powerful. So really doing the same exact thing with these kids, find out what is this kid's real passion? What is he really excited about? And once he's in his excitement mode, in his passion mode, he starts to open up. Things that were bothering him before, like obsessions, just aren't the same. I'm not saying there's not work to do on the obsessions, but it's just not the same as it once was. So that's really like the first key to really helping these kids is to tap into something that they're really passionate about, really excited about. And that goes together with trying to understand them, understand who they are, connect with them.
You should know that when he was
Malka, I have to add something. This is really important. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, it's okay.
The idea of woodworking was the blessing for me working with Nochum and the kids, because when he's building a stender with somebody, you know what a stender is?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. See, Usher's not listening to my jokes. I don't like this. I got a problem. I have a problem. And that is,
find a good therapist.
we'll talk about that later. But here they're building a stender. Okay, it's one thing to do it, but then we want to add something. What should we do with the stender? And the key for this kid is to the idea that he's not the only one in the world. Everything is not, geared towards him, right? Rabbi Monosov bought the wood, helped, why should the kid take it home? Maybe we should donate it to the shul, and but it
No, we made up originally that we're gonna present this as I have to change details because we can't discuss. We're gonna be presenting this, we're presenting it to the Rav. That's gonna be to the Rav, and the kid agreed, and that's what our project was initially. And then all of a sudden, he loves to have the standards going. It looks beautiful. He's so proud. He's so excited. He's like, I'm keeping it.
Wow.
Right. So now, which is perfect, because now we have, I love this. I love when there's an issue, because now we have an issue to work with. And here's the key. Here's the key. And I don't know how to say this or explain it, but the key is for the kid not to do it, not the behavior of now he's going to give it to, and it's the right thing to do. And now you're going to do this. And we check that box off. Isn't that nice? No, the key is that he has to take ownership. He has to want, right? Whatever that means. He has to want and be proud to give this to the principal or the rev in charge. So that's the key. The key is that the child has to take ownership of whatever change we want him to have. He has to take ownership of it. Then it's coming from within him. If it's not coming from within him, then what's the alternative? Then he's listening to us. And that's not change. Then that's not change. Rob,
can I add something? Can I interrupt you now?
Yes, you can.
Guys, I want to pause because I have a lot more questions. I want to cover more. Is that okay?
He's interrupting both of us.
Can I say this one more thing? Because this is really, I think, going to answer a lot of questions or make a point for a lot of what goes on. This is an issue. The kid is not behaving. He's not doing what we want him to do. We want him to give the shtender to the Rav, and he's not behaving. He's saying, I'm not keeping it. So if we're going to look at it like, okay, he's not behaving, we've got to change the behavior, we're sort of using all our energy to try to get the kid to change the behavior, and then we're missing out. Like, this is a beautiful teaching moment. Like, this is the Rav's approach. Like, wow, we could really now try to challenge him and get him to really think about, instead of just trying to change his behavior, let's use this as a real teaching moment. So instead of being frustrated by these not behaviors, we could, say, wow, let's embrace it. Let's look forward to these things that now we can maybe teach the kid something that he didn't know before, and he might be able to now learn it for other things in his life.
That was important. Thank you for the interruption.
Okay, amazing, guys. Let's go to the next live question. You're on.
Hi.
Hi.
So I have two questions. My daughter, she was diagnosed at 14 with ASD. She's 15 now. And the doctor diagnosed her. And this was it was a long, painful process to get to the bottom of it, because it was sensory processing disorder, it's depression, it's anxiety, she's just a normal teenage girl. We got everything. And finally, we found a doctor who looked at her and he looked at us and he's like, it's as clear as day, this child is autistic. And everyone in the room just exhaled, because everything made sense. Everything, all the signs, it was so clear. So first question is, do you find that, because the doctor said only recently are girls starting to be diagnosed, because it's presented very, very differently than boys. So that's number one. And the second thing is, since her diagnosis, she was like, oh, I'm not weird, I'm autistic, and she really just owned it. And she's super creative. This is one of her paintings in the back here. And, as the hyper focus, she'll go into her room for hours and come out with we're supporting the canvas industry and the acrylic paint industry, just, helping her. And she writes all these graphic novels, very similar to Dogman. I don't know if you've ever seen those, but, pretty much telling the story of an alien living on Earth and trying to learn the rules and trying to learn the language and trying to be friends with all the Earthlings. And, you know, she wants to write these books for kids like her who feel, you know, we have a dog, and she says his name's Waffles, and she says sometimes she feels like Waffles at the Shabbos table, who, you know, he's not allowed to come to the Shabbos table, but he doesn't understand that he's not allowed to, and what did he do wrong? And, you know, like, she just, it's amazing how she's so aware and she's so able to communicate her experience being autistic. And then the last thing I wanted to ask is, you know, since her diagnosis, she got like a zillion services under the sun, like you name it, she got it. And she came to us, she has an amazing school, a regular school. And she's like, Mommy, why are they trying to fix me? Like, they think there's something wrong. They think I'm broken. Why are they trying to fix me? So I would love to hear your thoughts on anything I said.
A couple of thoughts. First, with the last thing, it's like, why do you want to change me into a dog? Why don't you just be the best cat you can be? Right? Because that's what's happening. And this is common. I mean, this is, I could show you this poster that's in part of the autistic community. So everything you're saying is incredibly common. I want to hop on something that is incredibly important for girls and women. You say it's only recently diagnosed. I'll tell you why it's only recently diagnosed. The person, again, Marsha Eckert, who I'm writing a book, co-writer for our next book, she is an expert, maybe the leading expert in the country on women and girls with autism. And if you look at the stats, it's like 4 times more boys than girls. It's not true. I can just tell you definitely it's not true. Girls have learned something. They learn what she calls masking.
Masking.
You know that, camouflaging, right?
Yep.
In other words, the girls would learn how to act so they look typical,
No.
right? And that's probably true with your girl too. So they don't get diagnosed because they pass. They pass as typical. But and I'm just saying this, that girls will have more suicidal ideation because they're living their lives. That's not them. It's not their authentic selves. They're not authentic, you know?
Right. She was so excited about the diagnosis. So everything you're saying makes so much, she was like, oh, like that's what it is.
Rebosha, is she allowed to interrupt me? We have to get this clear.
Sorry.
It's just a joke. I'm kidding. It's my Jewish sense of humor. Okay. I'm glad. But you're right. It's just a little joke. But yes, you're bringing up something that's so critically important. In fact, we want to hear her story for the book that we're writing. We're getting voices of people like your kid and maybe your voice. Her voice, in terms of, she sounds like she has a story she wants the world to hear. And we're taking those stories and putting them into a book. And that's how critical this idea is. And when you say, recently diagnosed, you know why it's recently diagnosed? Because of Marsha Eckert and her writings, you know, and it's just totally overlooked. And we, as a society, we're creating girls, especially, of not being their authentic selves. And I was going to say that's a sin, but I get in a lot of trouble saying that's a sin. But it's really a shame that that's what we're doing as a society. You would agree with that? Yes. Go ahead. You could interrupt. I'm sorry.
I'm scared if I'm gonna. Yes, I agree.
I was just kidding before about being interrupted.
I know, but you scared me.
Yeah, and also I like this beautiful paintings, instead of trying to, make her be like everybody else, let her be, appreciate her artwork, appreciate what she could do. And she has so much to offer to the world that maybe a regular typical kid wouldn't have to offer. And that's really like the uniquely normal. Like if we could value what someone with autistic person has to offer, there'll be a whole different kind of life for them. You know, they'll be valued, they'll be appreciated, they'll have what to connect with with other people with. And that's really, you know, understand what they're unique, what they have to offer, instead of saying you have to be like everybody else.
You see, she's over the hump. I don't want you to be scared. She got over the hump. And why I'm saying that, she has a perspective like, hey, it's not me. It's the rest of the world that's screwed up. What do they want to fix me? I'm okay the way I am. Right. And that's why I can say this. But the kids who are just immersed, right, who they haven't figured that out yet. And it could be kids, it could be teenagers, it could be people in their 20s. They keep on saying what's wrong with me because everyone's telling me what's wrong with me. So your kid that's what I'm saying. Your kid could reach out and help the rest of the world.
Rob, I have a question. Is it always that way that they feel liberated when they find out, or many could have the opposite effect? They can get depressed and they're like, oh man, now I can't be like the rest of the world. I'm just wondering.
Well, that's a great question. I'll tell you, I'll be personal. I have a kid on the spectrum, and he didn't know it until graduate school. He met this woman, and his girlfriend called me up, and she said, do you know your kid is on the spectrum? I said, well, I knew since he was 3 years old, but now he's going to know. He didn't know, because as a father, look, I don't want to get myself in trouble, but I didn't really trust our educational system. Okay. So I'd rather fill in for him and, you know, help him along the lines, help him with jobs. You know, he would get a job. The hardest part of his job was getting lunch for everybody, you know, because it's a social thing. So we went through all of that, and he did fine. He went to a great graduate school. But now, to answer your question, now after all these years, now he's going to know he's on the spectrum because of his girlfriend. And I was asking myself the same question. He's going to be upset with me. Dad, my whole life would have been a lot easier if I knew. That would explain a lot of things to me, you know, or I don't care. You know, who cares? I did fine. I'm in a great school program. I have a girlfriend. So it depends. Sometimes there really is that kind of relief. And a lot of times, I would say most of the time, you know, now I understand. But here's the key: knowing what to do about it. Personally, I have never, ever, I've seen thousands of people. I never told a parent what's wrong with their kid without knowing what to do about it. As opposed to, like somebody asked, you know, they want to know if the kid is autistic. They go to a psychologist. Yes, your kid is autistic. Fine. What do we do about it? Well, I don't know. The school will know. No, wait, that doesn't help. That's why it doesn't help. We need to know what to do about it. So I never tell anybody that there's something going on with their kid without knowing what to do about it. Then it's okay. Yes, you have a problem, but I know what to do about it. And guess what? If I asked you what you want to do to be better, the child, if he's old enough and he can talk, then yes, I can help that. You know, and if you want to call it autism, fine. I don't care what you call it. Right? The idea is to just improve.
Can I add something to you?
No. I'm sorry for cutting you off. I just want to go to the next one. Sorry.
Can I stick in 30 seconds?
Not now. Sorry.
Okay.
Let's go to the next one.
Interrupting.
Yes,
Coach Menachem, you want to judge this?
you're on. Let's go. I just
Okay.
have a lot to cover. Menachem. I trust me. Hi, you're on.
Hi. Okay, hi. So I have a 4-year-old that I don't have any formal diagnosis. This is really the first conversation I'm having about my concerns. It started about a year ago, pretty much almost overnight, I would have to say. And it started with terrible meltdowns. Around the time I was training him, he turned 3. I just spoke, mentioned his plague with Mora to, a neighbor that is very involved in various, she runs a therapy program, speech therapist and occupational therapy. And just mentioned my concerns that this is like, at the end of the day, I had him tested for PANDAS, nothing showed up. I had, and at the end we decided maybe it was the stress from the toilet training, put him back into diapers. And after a couple of weeks, he seemed to have stabilized, normalized, back to his happy self. Maybe not 100% back to himself, but enough that made me feel that that was probably the issue, and we moved along. So that was about a year ago. In the past year, it's been almost cyclic. I feel almost that there's sometimes something, like a virus or something that kicks it off, but he goes into these, 6 weeks at a time, where he'll get up in the middle of the night, rock, hold his ears, scream, yell, run down the hall, and come here, go away, don't touch me, like just whatever I do, is wrong. And it just lasts for about, I'd say 45 minutes to an hour, and then eventually he'll just snap out of it. It could happen in the middle of the night with, like, I have no idea what starts it. Sometimes it happens multiple times during the day, various things, always. I never know what's going to make him blow. Other than that, his playgroup mover tells me that sometimes he'll play nicely, but sometimes he'll prefer to be on his own. Sometimes during circle time, he'll wander off. And I don't know if this is indicative of, like, on the spectrum. And if it is, where do I go? How do I handle? What do I do with this?
I have a question for you. How is he with recognizing someone else's point of view? In other words, if you kind of make believe you hurt yourself on the table, would he notice it? Would he care? Would he say, "What's wrong, mommy?" Or would he just sort of ignore you?
No, he will. He'll sometimes, like, even in his fury, he'll throw things, and I'll, try to explain to him, we can't throw things, people get hurt. And he'll say, "I'm sorry." And then, like, later on in the day, he'll talk about it. He'll say, he hurt me and he's sorry.
Okay.
So he will recognize if someone is hurt.
And how about playing with other kids? Does he have a mutual back and forth with other kids? If someone comes over and says, "I want to do this," would he go along with the other kid?
Yes, he could be very playful. I have, children around his age. He has friends.
And how is his language?
Poor. His language, no, I shouldn't say. His language is good. His articulation is poor. He is getting speech therapy. He does have a nice language, but articulation is a struggle.
And he talks about things in the past and in the future?
Yeah.
So what's the one thing that you're mostly concerned about?
It's really behavior. He's easily upset, and then he will be uncontrollable. I mean, he's not my first child. I have a number of children, and I can recognize a tantrum. This is beyond. This is like a frenzy, a meltdown. That's like he's totally not approachable. And then it could happen. And I'm not always certain when and it's going to get set off.
So one more question, and that is, have you ever asked his opinion? Not while he's doing it. Like you're driving in the car and you say, "Hey, do you know how you sometimes become," whatever word he would understand, "uncontrollable"? How does he see himself? Have you ever asked him that?
Yes. I don't get a very good dialogue about it. Now I started, this started about a year ago, and I feel like he's more mature now. But sometimes, if it happens in the middle of the night, the next morning we'll talk about it. Or I'll remind, he's constantly hoarse, when he, because he screams so much. And he'll, sometimes right when he comes.
What does he say?
So he'll say, you know, sometimes he'll say, like after the fact, he'll say, but I'm, you know, if we scream, then it makes me get a headache. So we'll talk a lot about using words, and he seems to like understand the concept.
But that's from your point of view, that he screams and he gets a headache and this and that. And but the question is, it's an interesting question, and this is like a broader lesson for many people. What is it from the kid's point of view? In other words, he's uncontrollable sometimes. So I want to know what it is. I mean, can he control his impulsivity? He might say, I don't know, something just takes over. I don't know why. You know, that's important if he just says, I don't know. You know, or he might say, I get so angry because, whoa, really? There's something going on that you're angry about? You know, that you know, well, maybe something could change if you're angry about something. So if it's just like not being in control, then it could be a self-regulatory kind of issue. There's a whole book out by, I just happen to have it here, whole book on self-regulation, whole book, self-regulation, how to help your child break the, you know, regulate it. To sum up the book in a sentence or two, is that number one, you need to be calm, because if you're reacting to his reaction or his being uncontrollable, it's not going to help. It's going to set him off even more. So not to control him per se, not to react to that, but to understand, like, you know, what is it? What is it? And the second part of this book is when he is calm, those times when he is happy, right? When he is calm, see if he could be aware of that. Yeah, look how you feel when that's where you want to be. That's where you want to be. Here's the thing. He doesn't like it when he's uncontrollable. He doesn't like it when he's running down the hall all over the place. So why should we punish? I'm not saying you're doing this, but why should we punish or try to, you know, force the kid to be? He doesn't like it. He needs help. He needs help in controlling himself. So let's understand him. See if he could understand himself. Very often the questions that I'm asking, we don't know. Only he knows what's happening in his head or his body when he's just not regulating himself. So let's see if we can go along those lines, that we need to find him, have a way for him to regulate his own, you know, what does he do? What does he do to calm himself down? This is so common with so many of our kids. I'll just give you a quick example. That this one girl would do this anime art instead of melting down, because she knew herself well enough, right? She was like 15 years old. She felt she was just melting down with this anxiety in school, in the classroom. When she does her anime art in the on her iPad, she figured it out. You know, thank God she figured it out herself, that she knew what to do to calm herself down. When the teacher says, no, you can't do that. You have to listen to me. You can't draw, because otherwise everyone could. And I'm going, wait. If you force her not to do that, she's going to be melting down like she has had the meltdown several times in the past. She needs this. You know, there's an IEP, individualized educational program. She needs this. This is a calming down kind of thing, you know? And if you want to, and if you have to make an exception for her, then do it. And you could tell the class, this is her exception, right? That she needs this. Other kids will have other exceptions. So this idea of calming yourself down is so important in everything that these kids are doing, whether it's synagogue or classroom or social event. They may need to find a way of calming themselves down in any kind of social situation.
Amazing, Robert. Okay, you have another live question. You're on. Everybody's asking. Everybody wants everything out of you.
Good.
Let's go. You're on.
Hi. So I have an 8-year-old. He was diagnosed with ASD about a year ago. and he also has ADHD and ODD. And thank God he's getting a lot of services and he's in a special needs school. But one of the things that we're still struggling with at home is frustration intolerance. So he'll get set off by something very small that's not going his way. And he immediately goes into like very aggressive behavior, either, growling or in your face or demanding, bullying, and sometimes hitting. And sometimes I don't even know what just happened, like, what did I do? What did I say? And this also plays a role with his social relationships, with his peer relationships. He does much better with younger kids or with older kids, but with his peer relationships, he can't figure out how to navigate, like, I don't want to play the game you're playing, or I'm done with this. What do we do next? And so sometimes, the interactions are 10 minutes long, then he's running back home already.
Can I ask about siblings? Does he have siblings?
No, he's an only child.
Okay.
So, and the other thing is that he can't play by himself. He has absolutely no patience to do that, and he has no tolerance for being bored. So, I have to play with him all the time, or he's on his tablet, which is, obviously not preferable at all. But sometimes I need a break. I'm a single mom. I need a break. So to try to interest him in something, I think that it's the ADHD then that kicks in, where he can't pick something to do. He can't figure it on his own. He has 2 or 3 activities that he perseverates on that he'll always say yes to, but he always wants me there with him. And slowly I've been stretching him to be open to playing a different game, or, doing something other than what he would usually choose, but it's slow going. And overall, it makes it for a very difficult home environment. So my first question is, what do you think? I have tried ABA in the past. It's been very hard to find a match. And it's also just anyone at all, first of all. And second of all, to find a match. He is very high functioning. He's very highly intelligent, but he's got also learning disabilities, and he's got these other issues that I just, behavioral things that I just described. So we're still trying to get our hands around making the home environment more harmonious, and also, you can kind of imagine how things go when it comes to bath, bedtime, brushing teeth, transitions. Transitions are also very difficult for him, like, it's dinner time now it's not dinner time. Now we're doing the next thing, etc.
So Raizel,
Rob, can I first say something about the
I was going to
ABA?
say, Nochum and I have worked with kids that have to get their way. I'm telling you, I want to give you as much help as I can possibly give you, because this is one of the most common things in my lifetime working with these kids. And we had several students of Nochum that we work with just this issue. So go ahead, you talk first.
Okay, yeah. So first of all, I'm going to have 3 articles in the Voice of Lakewood about this topic of behavioral challenges. Hopefully, there's some of the strategies that we can't get to everything, Rob, things that I learned from Rob, things I put together. Now, regarding the ABA therapy, ABA, many people find a lot of success. ABA has a lot of very good teaching strategies. It's one of the, it was found to be rated on our rating scale, this forum to be the most effective therapy. But the thing is with ABA therapy that, sometimes the ABA therapist gets too focused on the behaviors and trying to change the behaviors. So it's sort of, the ABA therapist is approaching the kid, and he needs to change the kid's behavior. And the kid smells it in a second. He's like, oh, you're trying to change me? And immediately there's a conflict and there's a power struggle, and there's no chance of it working. If the therapist would approach the kid, I want to get to know you, you have so much to offer. What are you excited about? What are you interested in? Let's make a relationship. Then there's grounds for having a real connection and real successful therapy taking place, once you approach it that way.
So I'm just plugging in my computer here. Razel, right?
Mhm.
Okay, look, I don't know your kid, but I'm gonna speak generally and you could, tell me what you think. But first of all, why a lot of these kids will play with younger kids because they get their way. The younger kids will, listen to what they do. They're younger. The reason they do well with older people, because let's say adults, because the adults will go along with what your child wants to do. So he basically always gets his way. And that's why, but when with a peer, then he has to really pay attention and go along with somebody else. So that's kind of a general, when that happens, it gives you a general sense of, oh, there's an issue here. What you need to do, I'm going to tell you what to do, all right? That's what I'm here for.
Great.
You need to use yourself in a therapeutic way. And when I say in my book, I say, just give it 15 minutes a day. I don't want you to go nuts. I'm not telling you how to parent. You're the best one right now because he asks you to play with him all the time. Fine. We need you to use this situation with him therapeutically. So 8 years old, I don't know. Let's say you have an instrument, a couple of instruments, right? This is your turn, then his turn. In other words, he doesn't have to get his way all the time because you want your turn. A lot of these kids have trouble taking turns, understanding that you want to do something too. Now, just from experience, when you're taking turns, he has to pay attention when it's your turn. He has to pay attention. He can't just go like this. Oh, it's your turn. Now, I don't know his name, but it's no. When it's your turn, he has to pay attention to your turn and anticipate when you stop. He has to allow you to have a life. He has to recognize your feelings and what your needs are. So you have to use look, I have a great example in that manual. I'm going to hold it up because I love this example. A kid your age, and I'm tempted to read it. We're going to get coffee ice cream. No, we're going to the ice cream store. He tells me, I want you to get coffee ice cream with me. Now, I don't like coffee ice cream, but he likes it. So I have to get coffee ice cream. There's no way in the world I'm going to get coffee ice cream. But this is the lesson. This is the challenge. This isn't like 5 minutes or 3 seconds. This is at least 20 minutes. I would love to just read it to you, but it'll be boring and Rev Usher would just kick me off. But it's like we're going back and forth, hey, and this is what I don't do. What I don't do is say, sometimes you don't like certain things. I don't do that. I want him to understand that I don't like certain. You see the difference? Mm-hmm. I don't want to see the world just from his point of view. I want him to understand that I don't like. I have my, and this is what you could do as an adult, as a teacher, as a parent. You have rights too. I have a right not to like coffee ice cream. That is my right. He can't tell me how I feel, right? And I can be very powerful with that in a real situation. And we go back and forth and back and forth. And finally, and I told him, I like chocolate ice cream. I don't like, and finally, after about 20 minutes, he doesn't say no to my getting something else other than coffee ice cream. At that point, what do? I ask him, what kind of, am I going to get coffee? I need him to take ownership. It's not enough for him to be okay with me getting chocolate. I want him to verbalize, you know what? You're not getting coffee ice cream, you're getting, I wanted to hear from him. That's exactly what happened. I'm getting, and then, you might know, to me, I'm having fun, okay? This is just having fun. It's not driving anyone crazy. I say to him, oh yeah, okay, now you agree that I'm getting chocolate ice cream. Hey, I think it's funny, but I don't know. I say, hey, why don't you get chocolate ice cream and we'll both get chocolate ice cream? He says, no, I'm getting coffee ice cream. I said, okay, that's what I thought. So that's when the story ended. But here, that's a really good example of using yourself therapeutically to having this, look, it's 20 minutes took him to really change his perspective of somebody else's feelings. That's not bad. That's not bad. And you need to do something like that, or many things like that. And I'm saying, give it 15 minutes a day, maybe, because it's, you know, it's not an easy thing to do, but try to stick with something like that and see his response, and then get back to Nochum and myself and let us know what works and what doesn't work.
Can I add something to that, Basher? This is also something that you, Rob, I'm sure, you know, you've told me. And if you're not every day going to the ice cream store, I love the ice cream example. It's great. But let's say you don't have the ice cream example, you know, this could happen every day. Your kid wants something from you. He wants you to get him something. He wants you to spend time with him. So you can't, this kind of kid, you can't force him to do what you want him to do. He says, no, I don't listen to you, what you tell me. But then you could tell him, what, I can't say no. You want me to do something. I'm not allowed to say no. And you make it joking, you make it playful, you make it fun. I'm not allowed to say no. And the kid says, no, you're not allowed to say no. And then you know, why can't I say no? Well, you know, once you start getting to that conversation, you get him to think instead of just demanding his way. He's sort of like, now he has to think about you.
Oh, I have a few, I'm sorry. I have like a bunch of like potato chips in my office. And first session, this is the first session. And I'm just doing what I feel is right. A person that never wants to see me again, that's fine. The kid takes the potato chips and sits down, and the mother says, right, sitting next to the kid, you know, what do you say? And the kid says, you know, please can I have potato chips? And what do I say? I say no. I say no. If he's asking a question, why can't I say no? Why? I mean, what's going to happen when the kid's 14 years old and wants a car? Everything is yes if he says please? That's ridiculous. Just says please and he could get anything he wants. I say no. And I go on explaining to the parent that, you know, if he's asking me a question, he has to understand that the question could result in a no. And that's where peers come in. Peers do not say yes, yes, yes. So
are you losing a relationship? You want to connect first. Don't do it right away.
Oh, okay. I like this. I like this. So wait. So in order to have a relationship, I have to say yes to everything.
The child not coming back, doesn't want to see you again.
Okay. Okay. Let's go on with another example with Nochum's the fish story. He had a kid. I want to go to the pet store. I want to buy fish. And what we told the kid is said, wait a second, we have to know how to take care of the fish. We just can't buy the fish because you want the fish. We have to stay and listen to the instructions of how to take care of the fish. The kid says, no, 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 no. I just want the fish. What do we do? As a parent, what do you do? We have to be ready to walk away. It's okay to just, you know, it's like, it's stupid to get a fish if you don't know how to take care of it. So like, all right, we'll come back when you're ready to listen to how we take care of it, because it's ridiculous. You know, it's like, all right, talking about pleasing kids.
Can I just put in 1 point? I'm sorry, 1 point for Coach Menachem.
What?
You start off with something that the kid really likes. So like you have that in the back, like there's something really exciting that you've brought in the first time. He really is excited for that thing. So it's not the first thing that you tell him, no, you can't have what you're asking for. He knows there's something exciting that you do have, and he's going to look forward to coming back for that. Like Rod, like the first thing you offer the kid is the gold bar.
Right. So I believe you have to have a relationship, and once you have a relationship, you can challenge it, and he should understand.
Well, you're right. I feel I have 10 minutes to establish this rapport.
Beautiful.
I have 10 minutes to have this trust between me and the kid. And that is the number one issue.
Here's a question that came in. It's going back to the beginning. Let's see. As parents, we're concerned about our child's social skills. Our child avoids friends and never interacts with them after school. So the real question is, would you say is that a red flag for autism, or maybe he's not in the mood of playing with anybody ever? What strategies can you suggest to help our child make friends and learn to socialize better?
I mean, that might be the most important question yet, because if we can get a kid who doesn't have friends to have a genuine friend relationship, then if you think of the definition of autism has to do with socialization, if we can do that, and I'll often say, if a school could take an entire year, and that's the only thing they did the entire year, to develop a genuine mutual relationship where kids genuinely like each other, they see each other. I'm thinking of a friendship. They saw each other every week for 2 years until one of the kids, left town. Then he's not so autistic anymore. That's a definition of autism, not having this friendship or socialization. If we can do that and only that for a year, that would be just wonderful. So let's see what doesn't work. Usually, going bowling, great. It's a great social situation. The thing is, these kids have been in these social situations month after year after year. The kid's 13 years old and doesn't have any friends. We just can't, we have to intervene, is my point. We have to do something about the friendship issue. We can't just leave, yes, they're going to go on a trip, they're going to do this. It's not happening without some kind of intervention. So number one is that, well, I'll tell you what I do. I'll go into a social situation, a classroom, a place where people eat, a work situation, and it's not hard to do this. In your community, and you've done, many of you have done this many times. You say, that kid is a good match for my kid. Okay, don't leave it to chemistry. That kid is a really good match for my kid. And 90% of the time, well, maybe 80% of the time, that match is not a kid on the spectrum. Why should a kid on the spectrum socialize with other kids on the spectrum? I mean, I don't know. That doesn't, it's not always the best, match. So then if you have that kind of match, then you could facilitate this kind of togetherness. Sometimes a child's not ready for a friendship. They're not ready for this mutual relationship. What does that mean? They can't, like the last person, they cannot see something from another person's point of view. That's a cognitive kind of thing that we learn when they're 2-3 years old. If you can't see something from another person's point of view, it has to be your way, you're not ready for friendship. So I have a series of videos to show these two kids, neither one of them were ready for a friendship, and helping each of them be ready for friendship. And then they became the best of friends for 2 years. So we need to see if they're ready, and then we need to think of a good match. All they need is one friend. And then we need to facilitate that match. It may be the most important part of what we can do with these kids on the spectrum.
So can I add to that? When I'm working with boys like this, they need help having a friend, and many times it's this issue that what you're saying, that they can't see something from another person's point of view, so they'll just want to do their thing, and they can't get along with somebody else. They need to have it their way, do their thing. So I start off with the relationship being with me and the child, and I have to work together with the child, that I'll have the first relationship with him, and I know how to deal with it when he doesn't get what he wants, and how to challenge him. And he starts opening up to having a relationship and to enjoying that back and forth, with in the therapy, in the context of the therapy session. And once he's starting to have that, you can, and you could also come up with some interesting, something that's really exciting. What I do with the kids, he doesn't want to have a friend. He doesn't want to invite anybody over. He just wants me to do something with him. So I'll say, okay, we do some really exciting project, but you have to bring a friend along. Pick a friend. And then, and then to want to do it, he has to find some kind of friend. and he gets that friend to come along, and then I can start, challenging him to work together with the friend, and then as time goes along, he gets used to having that friend with him, and he actually enjoys just being with a friend, and then I could take myself out of it, and they could go on their own and do stuff together.
But it's so much pressure for him to have a friend.
So I'm not pressuring him to have a friend.
He doesn't want. He wants to do it himself.
He wants, no. So every human being wants social. They want that social relationship, that social interaction, but he's stuck that he can only see his way. So he's missing out on that. But once you can help him overcome that obstacle and start to, realize that he can think about somebody else and enjoy that, once he can taste the enjoyment of a friend, he can start expanding that to be friends with, somebody else, and it starts to grow.
But that's a good point, Coach Menachem. I was in a school and this kid sitting by himself. It's a circular table sitting by himself. I go to the teacher there and I say, well, why is he sitting by? He wants to be that way. He wants to be alone. He has every right to be alone. Okay, so he's alone. But are you saying, the teacher, that means every single day of the entire year, he wants to be alone? Maybe there might be a time when he will accept another human being sitting at that table. Maybe we should try that. Maybe we want to respect his wanting to be alone, but we might seize the opportunity to bring, let's say, a kid in a wheelchair who can't fit in. There's no other place. Oh, okay. There's no other place for this person to eat. We're just going to put this person here and walk away. We're not telling him to talk. We're giving him the opportunity to say something to another human being. So both ideas are correct. That, yeah, the kid's entitled to be by himself, but maybe there's a therapeutic way we get this kid to reach out.
And I do find once you start connecting to the kid, he does want, he starts to open up. He wants to have friends. I haven't yet found a kid that really doesn't want to have friends. It's usually he wants to, but he doesn't know how to do it, or he's turned off from it.
Mm-hmm.
I want to give a very quick thing that people are going to have fun with.
Okay.
And that is,
I have a few more questions we got to cover tonight. I'm letting you know.
What's that? What was that?
I have quite a few more questions I really want to cover tonight.
Okay. All right. I'm going to take a chance and say this is worth it. You tell me if it's worth it, Reb Usher. That how do you find out, how do you play with this idea if the kid has a perspective of somebody else, someone else's perspective? You take like a stuffed animal or something, you put it on the floor. You look out the window, you see cars, you see streets, and you ask the kid, what does that animal say? It's fun because the kids I do it on with, they say, oh, he sees cars and streets. Oh, really? He does? Literally go down to that perspective on the floor and now tell me what he sees. In other words, we want him to learn this idea of another person's perspective. Was that worth it?
Amazing.
Okay, Rob. No, I liked it. I really liked it. Sorry. Rob, this is a great question. A child has difficulty understanding social boundaries, such as appropriate physical distance and not asking personal questions. What strategies can we use to teach our child on the autism spectrum appropriate social boundaries?
That's a great question. And a kid goes to a mall and he's going to strangers, social boundaries. Okay, think cognitively what that means. That kid needs to know that other person doesn't want to hear from him. That other person doesn't want to be touched by him. That other person is annoyed by what he's doing. So he has to know all that before he could just stop doing it. You could say, don't do it, don't go. But that's a behavioral thing. So this, and people ask me this all the time. The kids at a mall, the kids going to strangers, talking about movies because the kid's obsessed with movies, talking to everybody. And like it's, so it's, so what I'm saying, if someone approaches me with that issue, I'm saying there's probably something else that's more important that we can actually have more of an effect, because that kind of thing, the social boundary thing, is kind of like an 8-year-old going to graduate school. There are too many issues there for them to grasp, to just say, don't talk to other people, because when you know what happens, then the aunt or the uncle comes by who they haven't seen in 2 or 3 years because of COVID, and the kid won't talk to the aunt or uncle because they were told not to talk to strangers. You see what I mean? That's happened a lot. And now you have a problem with that. So instead of trying to get the kid to behave properly, let's kind of back off and look at things that could have more of an effect.
So, Rob, I want to add something that I got from you. You know, if a kid has autism, he comes over to you and he wants to offer you his half chewed up cookie, you'll say it much better than me. And so you say, well, I don't want your half chewed up cookie. You know, you give the humor, and you just say it very straight to the point, very humorous. You're not insulting him. You're not telling him what to do. And he realizes, like, hey, maybe people don't want my half chewed up cookie. Or like, you know, he's breathing in your face. Oh, what, you're breathing right in my face. I don't. And then like, and you say it funny, you say it laughing, and the kid gets the point, and you say it jokingly, and then he starts to say like, hey, maybe people don't like that.
You know, that's why I can get away with the potato chips, because it's said in a fun, energetic way. No, you can't get you. Why do you have to? Because you say please, that means you have to get everything you want. That's, you know, that's where
when you make fun of you make fun of the kid's challenge, and you're open about it, and then the kid laughs along with it. Like a kid told me, you know, he got out of another kid to give him his, he got an e-cigarette out of another kid, you know, he's throwing things at him, and finally, he's pushing him, throwing things, and the kid gave him the e-cigarette that he wanted from the kid. So I told the kid, oh, so now you're going to do the same thing to me. You're going to start pushing me and throwing things at me to get stuff out of me. And like, you know, just to joke about it with him, he realizes like, you know, hey, maybe that's not the best way to do things, even though he likes doing it, but he realizes that, you know, just joking about it could, you know, it could be a powerful way of teaching the kid something.
Okay, let's try to cover this one also. A child on the autism spectrum gets dysregulated from small changes in his routine. For example, a child on the spectrum becomes dysregulated when we have to make small changes to his schedule or routine, such as delay in planned activity or change in mealtime. We want to find ways to help him be more flexible and adaptable when changes occur without causing him unnecessary stress or anxiety. How can we teach him to be more flexible when things change?
If a teacher is asking that question, it's great, because the teacher is aware that this kid has difficulty with transitions, right? So it's a great question. Now we have, let's see, you know, let's use some of these techniques, you know, find out why the kid is just really kind of obsessed with what he's doing, and why can he stop? And maybe he's getting mixed messages from the teacher. I don't want to always, one point I want to make, I don't want to always look at the kid as a deficit. So the teacher says, you have to copy your homework before you go to lunch, right? So he's copying his homework from the board, and now the bell rings, he has to, I haven't finished. You gave me the rule that I have to finish copying my homework, and now you're telling me I have to leave. So with this idea of transitions, it works kind of both ways, that there are rules. Some of these kids are so kind of obsessed with rules. You have to be careful what you say, and it's not always the kid's difficulty. Now, the other answer, the answer that you want to hear is, you know, the kid's having difficulty transitioning. One method that I've used with kids is have them visualize the next thing that we're doing. Just imagine stopping what you're doing and, you know, and moving on and seeing if that kind of thing may work. Have the kid buy into what the next thing is. There's a story in my book of Raisy. I call her Daisy because they call her Crazy Raisy, that she wouldn't transition into anything. She just do whatever she's doing. And she was literally all over the place. She ran away. The counselors at Haas would run after her. They would catch her. She would bite the counselors. Like she was going into a hospital setting. a full-time, not a hospital, but a full-time setting away from home. She had a padded basement that she just was totally uncontrollable. So how do you teach these kids transition? And the way I did it with her is that if she's on the swings, I asked her, what do you want to do next? Oh, I want to go play in the sandbox. After the swing, she's off. I said, no. You're going to do what you want to do. So part of this transition thing, you want the kid to do what they want to do. And after 3 weeks, when the parents came for observation, I know it's 3 weeks because the parents come to observe their kids, they look at this kid raising and she looks like a quote unquote normal kid because she's going from activity to activity to activity because she's learned that, yes, I could structure myself and it feels good. And after a while, then you could say, instead of asking her what she wants to do next, we're going to have lunch afterwards. And she'll go along with that kind of sequencing because she wants to be, these kids want to be quote unquote normal kids. They want to be typical. They don't like to misbehave all the time. So let them buy into it and make this transition. That's the trick. It's not us getting them to transition as much as having them buy into this idea. And we can't do it without them. See, that's the trick. You're asking me what to do. There's a saying in the autism world, nothing about us without us. We need to have the kid involved to know what to do that's going to work for him or her or they, right? That's the missing part in a lot of these questions. You have to have that buy-in from the kid.
Right, so I think that this is a good example of, Rob's approach of, you need to understand what is cognitively going on with the kid, why the kid, isn't transitioning properly. The kid doesn't understand, first we do this, then we do that. If you understand what's going on in the kid's mind, what development they're missing, you can really help them overcome that. Could be in some kids, I think, Rob, he's asking kids that get like stuck. They're very rigid with certain things. They need things to be a certain way. They can't sort of break out of their rigid, fixed way of thinking. What would you recommend for that?
You're asking me? I thought the questions were coming.
I'm supposed to, okay, I'll answer it, but
Well, go ahead. Go ahead. You can.
Okay, I'll say something, and then so when kids are rigid and they get stuck on things, I don't know if this is the situation that we're talking about. They need things to be a certain way, and they need to drive home from school a certain way. And if you go a different way, they'll have a meltdown. They can't deal with it. And then over there also, it's the issue of getting the kid to buy in. If you can just force the kid, exposure therapy, he needs to be exposed to getting things not his way, and you fight with him and you force him, he's just gonna feel not understood, just get upset, frustrated. But if you, so I'm using your example. If you, you tell the kid, hey, there's something really interesting on that block. Why don't we just go check it out today for a minute, and then we'll go your regular way. You challenge them on their terms that they're more willing to accept the change. They'll start opening up to change. And then, once you work with the kid, you'll start finding different ways. He's starting to play maybe a game that he never played before. He'll go somewhere he never went before. And especially if he's enjoying it, there's something he likes to do, there's something he's engaged in. You find these ways of breaking his pattern of getting stuck in one way of doing things and, getting him to do other things also.
Yeah, being stuck is almost universal with these kids. And I'll just say one thing about that hasn't been said yet, that if a kid feels that the class made 150 brownies and he wanted a brownie, but the teacher said only one brownie for each kid because we're going to sell the rest. And this kid says, I want another brownie. And the kid pushes the paraprofessional and he gets suspended. And for the first thing that we need to do in cases like stuckness, that we have to validate. I could understand that you want another brownie. Maybe we all should have 2 brownies. Let's validate these kids' feelings. They may be stuck for some reason instead of saying, okay, we got to turn your behavior around. Let's recognize and validate what they're saying and what they're feeling. If we do that, then we can all breathe. We don't have to react and fight with the kids that are not following our agenda.
Rob, let's go to another question that we have. This is from a spouse. I'm married to someone who has high functioning autism, also known as Asperger's. While we love each other, I find it challenging to improve our relationship due to our differences. My spouse often needs help understanding some of the things that are important to me. For example, when she shares her emotions, he doesn't like it. It's a long question, but I would want to know just the basic. What would you tell a spouse that's dealing with these issues? What are some practical ideas?
This is so common. And I find this fascinating. Working with, often it's the guy, the man who is Asperger's, and the woman is not. And like, they're just being driven, each one in their own way, just being driven crazy. The first thing, we got to step back and like take a breath and kind of see what is really difficult for this Asperger, husband of yours. What's like really difficult, and let's look at that difficulty and see if we can get that. I mean, I'm going through in mind several examples. This guy's painting the wall, and he just can't attend to the detail because he's just doing the painting, and it drives her nuts. And so, all right, let's get some buy-in. Do you want to attend to the detail? How are we going to do that? Maybe we should paint one part of the wall first and look at it to make sure all the detail is there. It's not that hard if we could just take a breath, take a look at what's going on, and see if there's these things that could be done. I mean, there are cases where socialization is like, I talk about this in my book, so I could say it publicly. My brother's on the spectrum, and you may have to cut this example out, but so his potential wife, his girlfriend, says to me, "You think your brother's on?" This is my brother's in his 60s. "You think your brother's on the spectrum?" I go, wait, this is a loaded question. Of course he is, but like, why are you asking me? She says, "Look, he's a professor at Indiana University. We go to these staff meetings and parties, staff parties, and he's always in the corner. And it's driving me nuts." So she says to me, "Look, if he has Asperger's, I'll marry him." This is what she tells me. "But if he's just an ass, I'm not going to." This is what well, they wound up being married. They're married like 10 years now. And but this is see, part of the resolving the issues is she understands that he doesn't want to be with other people in groups. And now she gets that, she accepts that. And so she'll travel to Morocco by herself, or she'll go to places by herself, and everything is fine. So it's a complex issue, but it can be resolved, definitely. Did I overstep my boundaries?
Oh, no. Rob, can I grab one more in before we go to the closing, before we go to wrapping up? One more?
Up to you, sure.
You have all night. Look at you. You're full of energy. You're like a 20-year-old. Okay.
That's how I feel.
I'm looking for some advice on how my family can better understand and interact with children on the autism spectrum, and how we can promote positive interactions between them and our neighbor's child. We notice that our neighbor's child on the autism spectrum sometimes behaves differently than our other children, and we want to ensure that our children can interact with them in a way more respectful and positive. Are there any strategies that you could suggest to help us teach our children about the disorder? So their neighbors, they're living next door, they see this kid is bouncing off the wall, whatever it is, they're having a hard time with it. The kid can get upset and this and that. So they want to like discuss it with their younger children. Let's use the ages 8 to 13 or something like that. So they can be nice and be friendly and understand their limitations and understand how to,
I love that question. And I'm going to go a step further. I'm not looking for kids to be nice. You know, he has problems, be nice, no, I don't want to have that. I don't want to look at him as less. I want you to look at him as different. I want this kid and the family to be challenged with, and you may not believe me, but my friend gives whole lectures on this. I want you to appreciate this kid who is different. And that can mean all kinds of things. He can be a great artist, or he might like bouncing a basketball, or he just might be a fun kid to play with in some ways. I want you to find a way, and it's not hard, to do what I opened up with. Appreciate this kid. Don't feel sorry for him. Like Rabbi Monosov was saying, if he offers you a half-eaten cookie, you don't have to eat it to be nice to this kid. You could say no. These kids need to be said no to sometimes. So I want you to take the first thing I would do is say, let's observe him. Let's see what he does. Let's see what he likes. Let him, he likes playing with Legos. Oh, he's taking the Legos. All right. So why don't you be like a machine, sort of, and just offer him a Lego, and he'll just take it from you, right? Because he's playing with Legos. You see what he's doing, join him. Give him the Lego, right? Then, therapeutically, what I do, I'll give him 2 Legos. Now what does he do? Nobody knows. No one, we have what, 150, nobody knows what the kid's gonna do. He may ignore the 2 and just stick with the 1. That's interesting. He's saying no to those 2. He could say no. You could get him to say no. I don't want those 2. Whatever, if it's, so he's maybe he's taking those 2. And then what do? Maybe you give him 5 Legos. And you play with the idea. You have fun. I want a kid to have fun. Find this kid interesting, like I would find interesting. Meanwhile, you're kind of playing with this kid, go along with what this kid is doing. And that's how you play with him at first, by going along with what he's doing. Join him and have him feel accepted, and not have him do what you want to do. And that goes along with Coach Menachem's thing. Go along with him 100%. That would be the first thing I would do. And it's so important. And it helps the typical kid just as much, or maybe even more, than the kid who has autism. Because we all, as a society, like my book won an award for parenting, we all as a society need to embrace this population, because then we have the Thomas Jeffersons, the Da Vinci's, who's that guy from Microsoft?
Elon Musk.
Right? You have these geniuses, right, in our society that flourished. They found the way of making it. So we need to embrace these kids on the spectrum. That's one way that we can do it.
And then, and I just reminded Rob, one of our first training sessions, he said that, you told me you have so much fun working with these kids, and, you don't know what they're going to do next. And, and that's how you're doing it for so many years. So they know Rob is not getting tired. This is fun. It's working with these kids. It's exciting, and it's, it's engaging, and it's real. And, and this process is fun. It's enjoyable.
Okay, guys, it was beautiful. We barely covered half, or maybe even less than what we wanted to cover, but this
do we need to do another night for that?
Rada, of course. I mean, Robert, look at him. You can go another 400 hours. This guy, he's full of energy.
Let's go. Bring it on.
He likes it. Okay, first of all, I want to say a big thank you to Robert Bernstein and Nochum Monosov for coming on tonight, giving tremendous chizuk and inspiration and guidance. It's a very important topic. Everybody's texting me about information, getting hold of you. We'll get to that in a second. Again, if anyone wants to join the WhatsApp chat, please WhatsApp me at 848-525-0066. Every Sunday I'll send you the flyer. Go to menachembernfeld.com, sign up for the emails and all information. Again, for anybody who's here the first time, every Sunday night, 9:30 of this Zoom ID, different topics, different rabbis, different therapists, tremendous different things. I guess somebody called me up today, said he specializes in stuttering and he wants to have a talk on that. I'm like, I didn't even think of that. Like, it's crazy. So we play it by ear. We see how things go. Menachem next week, March 19th, we have an amazing show with world famous Rabbi Avi Wiesenfeld, live from Israel. He's Rosh Yeshiva Beis David, who inspires many, many Bachrim. I got to know him recently. He's an amazing person. The topic is going to be very powerful. Ignite the spark of Judaism, not living robotic, and start thinking for ourselves. How to get us and our children excited and happy with the life that we have. And Robert, I hope you're going to join and be part of it, because we all need that. How to ignite the spark in us. It's going to be a powerful program. Please join us. Let everybody know about it. Everything is recorded. It's going to be on menachembernfeld.com. If anybody has any questions from Menachem or anything, just email us at coachmenachem@gmail.com. Tonight's share program is share 136, and will be available on our phone lines. You can listen to it on the phone, hopefully by tomorrow at 848-777-GROW, GROW. If anybody wants to get in contact with Robert J. Bernstein or Nochum Monosov, I'll give you their social security numbers and their addresses. You can go down to their house anytime you want. But Robert's email is rjb@autismspeech.com. That's rjb@autismspeech.com. Nochum Monosov's email address is Monosov, MONOSOVN, like Nancy, @gmail.com. You can go to robertbernstein.com. And you want me to give out the phone numbers to the whole world? Is you guys this you want or no?
Yeah, RobertJBernstein.com.
RobertJBernstein.com. Numbers, Nochum, you want to give out your number? Robert, it's up to you. You don't have to. It's up to you. Again, we're going to send out the links for Robert's books. He has 2 books: Uniquely Normal, Tapping the Reservoir of Normalcy to Treat Autism, and his latest book, Uniquely Normal Manual, Using the Bernstein Cognitive Method for Autism. Both available on Amazon. Menachem will send out the links where to get them. And a special thank you to the Lakewood Scoop, Ellie and Ariel from 5 Town Central, Kyla Kaufman from JCN. I just want to say tonight, thank you guys for coming on and really bringing a lot of life and awareness to this topic. For the people that are dealing with it, it's real life. The people not dealing with it, they should understand it and be compassionate and be in reality. Understand that everybody's dealing with stuff. That's why we have this program. And you guys are both amazing. Robert, I love you.